Welcome to today's webinar that's hosted by the Yorkshire and Humber branch of the IRSM. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the financial risk of doing nothing with our speaker, Nicola Page, who is the principal of Nicola Page Financial Solutions, who's basically passionate about helping you build, grow and protect your financial future and achieve your long-term goals by creating a simple, easy to understand financial plan. Nikki will be taking over in a short while, but before we do, just to give you a quick heads up into next month's webinar, we will be joined by Dr. Sean Lundy from Tetra, and that will be on the 10th of July, where he'll be looking at building safety forum with challenges and opportunities for the profession. So without further ado, let me hand you straight over to Nikki, who's going to take us through this webinar today. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Hi, everybody. It's very nice to be here, and thank you to Andrea for inviting me to speak to you all today. I really do hope you all, take quite a lot away from this. I hope it's of benefit. There'll be plenty of time at the end to ask any questions that you've got. And I will also be asking questions throughout the webinar. It'd be really, really great to just get some feedback. So if you wouldn't mind popping your answers in the chat so that I can see the answers that are coming through, that would be fantastic. Okay, so I will start with a little bit about me. This is a picture taken recently at our family holiday to Sicily. I am there with my parents and my partner and my two children who are 19 and 14. I'm very passionate about financial well-being and educating people on how to manage their finances and make the most of the cash and everything that they've got to build their wealth and have a really good financial future. I love travel, love family and friends, really passionate about cooking, and that's everything about me really. We'll move on to the actual webinar. So I'm going to start by asking you a question. Do you know your number? Okay. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, it means, do you know the amount of money that you will need to live the life you want for the rest of your life? Now, what amount is that money? How do you work that out? If you can pop your answers in the chat, a yes or a no would be really, really helpful in the chat. See if we've got any answers coming through. As much as humanly possible is a great answer. Okay, we've got quite a few no's in there. So, okay, that's brilliant. Well, what I would like for you to gain from the end of this presentation is to actually maybe understand that and know what that is, or maybe know how you're going to work that out and how you can work towards that. So the areas we're going to discuss today are the 4 areas of, well, what I see as financial risk. Okay, so we're going to run through a little bit about time and how that is a risk, inflation, because that's also a risk. Then we're going to move on to some cash, and then we're going to do a little bit on retirement. So moving on to time. Okay, so people see risk very differently, okay? And what one person's perception of risk is might be completely different to another person's. And when it comes to time, what's the risk when it comes to time? Well, how much time do you have left when it comes to maybe saving for your future, retirement, that sort of thing? And if we're looking at time, the danger here is that if we don't make these plans and put these plans in place, the risk is that we may run out of time to do so. And time we need to use very wisely, as it's one of life's most precious commodities, and it's always something that we always want more of. There's never enough hours in the day to do all the things that we want to do. So what is the power of time? Well, compounding. Time is a massive factor when it comes to the effect of compounding. Now, Einstein referred to compounding as the 8th wonder of the world. And compounding, does anyone sort of give me some answers as to sort of what they understand as compounding in the chat while I'm talking through? Compounding is the process in which an asset, so that could be property, that could be an investment, say for example, cash that you put into an investment, so a stocks and shares ISA, something like that, or interest that you receive in the bank. Compounding is the earnings that that money makes, and the growth on that is then reinvested to make more growth, if that makes sense. So let me ask you a question. Would you prefer to have 1 pence that doubles every day for 30 days? Or would you prefer £50,000 every day for 30 days? Now we'll go with A as the 1 pence and B as the £50,000. Could you pop your answers in the chat, please, which one you prefer? And then we'll move on to the results. Brilliant, thank you. Wait for a few more answers to come in, if that's okay. Fantastic. Great. Any more answers? Oh. Brilliant. Okay, well, we've got a mix, and I think it's probably about 50-50 actually, looking at the chat. So let's just have a look. So if you said 50,000, then yes, you would be right up to day 28. However, by day 29, it's actually the 1 pence that gives you the most growth. So at day 30, with 1 pence that doubles every day, you'd have £5,368,709.12, and you'd have 1.5 million with the 50,000. So this is just to get you thinking a little bit about how compounding works. So the compounding effect, another example, we've got Anne and we've got Belinda. Now, Anne invests £200 a month and Belinda invests £400 a month. So she invests double what Anne invests. However, Belinda doesn't start until 10 years after Anne. Okay. Now, this is just showing you the time risk again. And what happens is Anne actually benefits from compounding for longer. So her savings have grown by an extra £14,500 compared to Belinda. So this just shows you that the more time you've got, the more you're going to benefit from that compounding. So that's how we go back to seeing time as a risk. Just moving on. So our next area is inflation. Now, can anyone tell me if they know what the current rate of inflation is? And if you can pop it in the chat, that would be great. Well, we just have a chat through inflation. So what sort of risk does inflation pose? Okay, well, inflation, I'm sure you all understand what inflation is. So apologies if I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but inflation is the rising cost of living. And we're all seeing that at the moment. I mean, we've been living for the last sort of 10 years where inflation was pretty low, between sort of 1.5, 2.5%. But in the last sort of 2 years, inflation has sort of skyrocketed, and it affects the buying power of your money. So over the last 30 years, from 1990 to 2020, a typical basket of shopping has actually doubled. Now, as I said, this is due to inflation being around 2% per year, sometimes less than that. But at the peak of the inflation sort of skyrocketing was October 2022, when inflation hit 11.1%. 1%, which is massive. Luckily, it's starting to decrease and it's starting to get under control now. And the actual current rate of inflation is 8.7%. Now, how do we protect ourselves from this particular risk? So this is how inflation can damage your cash. So if you've got cash in the bank, you need that cash to be keeping pace with inflation to ensure that your buying power is what your cash is now. In 12 months' time, it needs to be more than that because of the rising cost of living. So this example shows you over the last 20 years, if you had £10,000 in the bank in 2003, the actual buying power of that money now would actually be £5,860. So that is how much your capital would have eroded over that time. So what's the solution? The solution is that we need to make our cash work as hard as possible. Now, if you've got money in the bank and it's earning an interest rate, then obviously you're gaining that interest rate. But unfortunately, because over the last sort of 10 years, we've seen quite low interest rates, then that's harder to sort of keep pace with inflation. So if you'd have had £10,000 in the bank 10 years ago, it would have needed to have grown in the next 10 years by £7,063 to just keep pace with inflation. How do we achieve that? Okay, well, the grey bar at the top represents what would have happened to your money if you had done some sort of investment, okay? It's not guaranteed. It might have been more, it might have been less. It's assuming a growth rate of 6% per year. Now, when we talk about investments, that could be lower some years, it could be higher some years. But the best way to make your money work hard and keep pace with inflation and potentially grow as well is to look at some sort of investment. Now, I'm not saying that having cash, you shouldn't have any cash, because you definitely should. You should always keep a certain amount in cash. But what should that be? Because we also want, as I said, want our money to work hard and make sure that we grow our wealth and also to keep pace with inflation. So having cash should be an emergency fund that should cover any short-term goals, but also any unforeseen circumstances that crop up. So things like your car breaks down, you need a new boiler, things like that. Now, if we move on to the next slide, what that is tends to be around about 3 to 6 months of expenditure. Now, this can differ because it's a very, very personal thing. So it sometimes depends on things like, are you self-employed or are you employed? So if you're employed and you've got a secure job, you've got the same monthly income coming in every month, then you might not need as big an emergency fund as maybe someone who's self-employed and their income isn't guaranteed and it can change. So it is a very personal thing. But if I just flip forward one slide and then come back, the Money Advice Service recommend a savings pot equating to 3 months expenditure to buffer any unforeseen circumstances, just to give you an idea. But as I said, it is a very personal thing and it does depend on your circumstances. So I'm just going to go back one. So when I'm talking to clients about how they structure their money, we refer to it as 3 pots. And the first pot we call the larder. So that's for your sort of emergency fund and your short-term purchases. So anything in the next 5 years. So you might need plan on a new car. You might be looking to do some home improvements like a new kitchen or a bathroom. So all that would go into this pot here, where you'd keep that in readily available cash. Then you've got number 2, which is your fridge. And your fridge is your medium-term goals. So anything beyond a 5-year period. So something that you're saving for that's really important to you, a longer-term goal, which is maybe university fees for your children, you're looking to buy a house, or you might be looking to move house, maybe you're getting married and you've got a wedding, or any sort of special holidays, things like that. They'd all go into your fridge savings pot. And then coming on to your third one would be your freezer. That's more your long-term goals. So anything sort of beyond the 5-year period, more sort of looking towards 10-year plus. Now, depending on your age, obviously going back to time, that might be a lot longer. So if you're in your 20s and you're looking at saving for retirement, which you probably look at me now and think, what? That's miles away. I don't need to worry about that. However, it actually would benefit you greatly if you did think about it now, because the more you can think about it now and put something small aside now, the less you're going to have to invest when it comes to later in your life. And people don't tend to think about retirement, unfortunately, until they are in their 40s and 50s. And then often they realise that they're actually going to have to contribute a lot more than they thought. So just going back to time, the earlier you can start to think about these things, the absolute better, because you'll benefit from that compounding that we talked about previously. So what are the benefits of investing over the longer term? So I would never, ever recommend anyone to contemplate investing if they were wanting to access that capital before a 5-year period. So it would always look to go 5 years or more for any sort of investment. The reason for that is because, as you can see from this graph here, that blue line is quite volatile. Now, the blue line is the stock market, is equities, okay? Now, when I'm talking to clients, I would never recommend that they put all their eggs in one basket. How I tend to advise clients on investing is that we look at diversification. Now, what I mean by that is, if you are investing your money, you're looking at putting it in different areas. So that might be a percentage in equities, a percentage in bonds, and a percentage in property alternatives. So we look to go into different areas. And also with the equities, we do diversify as well. So it could be equities in the UK. So that's companies, buying shares in companies in the UK. And also overseas. So we're diversifying there as well, because we're not just looking at the UK, we're looking worldwide in different companies. And the reason for that is because the UK might suffer a recession, okay, so the stocks might fall. However, somewhere else in the world might be doing really well. So you're looking to balance your risk by investing in different areas and different asset classes. And what I mean by asset classes is equities, property. When I say property, it's commercial property, bonds, and also we have something called alternatives as well. Alternatives isn't displayed on here, but alternatives is things like oil, timber, gold, that sort of thing. So what can we see from this graph? Well, we can see that if we started in 2001 with £100,000, in 2022, that money would now be worth £305,000. So it's actually trebled in value. But what you've seen over that 20-year period is quite a lot of volatility. And you can see on here where COVID hit and it dropped about 30%. Now, what you've got to understand is there is a risk associated with investing, but over the longer term, then it is the best way to grow your money and to keep pace with inflation. If we have a look at cash, so what's cash done over the last 20 years? So £100,000 in 2001 would now be 150. Okay. What's inflation done? Well, you can see there as well, the yellow line is inflation, and it's actually overtaken cash. You can see that steep increase that we've had over the past 2 years. Moving on. So what is really, really important to understand when you're investing is a bit like a flight. It's not uncommon to experience some turbulence during a long flight. Now we're referring to long-term investment, but that's not a reason to jump out of the aeroplane. Now, what we mean by that is with investors, we see a bit of an emotional cycle. So what tends to happen is people will invest when things are looking really good and the markets are high, and they'll think, oh, this is great, let's invest here. But as we've seen from the graph below, it can be very turbulent and go up and down. So what happens is sometimes people will invest at the top end of the market, and then as soon as they've invested, they'll see it dropping and they'll panic. And what they'll do is they'll take their money out. So unfortunately, then it's not been of benefit. They'll have actually lost money. Now, this is why it's really, really helpful to have someone like me, not necessarily me, but a financial advisor who can guide you through this process and sort of talk you through that, you know, stay put. It's a long-term investment. We don't need the money now. We need to look to the future, and the markets, you know, over a 20-year period. Obviously, past performance isn't an indicator for future performance, but if we look at the history, which that's all we've got to go against, is it's always grown over the longer term. So things to consider. Well, do you incorporate a savings figure into your monthly budget? Okay, if you do, that's fantastic. But what a really good practice is to save it as an expense. Okay, just like a direct debit that you would for your utilities, your mortgage, anything like that. My 2 children both have jobs, and I've got them into the habit of any money that they receive, they save 20% of into their savings account. And it's just a really good habit to get into. Do you have accessible savings pots that are equivalent to 3 months expenditure? A lot of people in the UK don't have any savings, and this again is really important to have a cash pot of savings that you can dip into should you need to, so that you don't have to then maybe, I don't know, if something happens, put something on a credit card, which is something that, you know, we don't want to have to do. Another thing to consider, as I said, saving for family. So it really does encourage them to start saving early, because if you're like me, never got financial education at school. It's not taught on the syllabus. I got taught algebra, you know, all things like that, which, to be fair, I've never used. However, budgeting would have really helped me at school. So as a side to this, I do actually go into schools and I give free financial education to children as well, because I just think it is actually really, really important for them to learn that skill. So moving on to our final point is retirement. Now, it may be a long way for a lot of you, it may not be, but the key is that even if it isn't a long time away, you can still plan for it. It's never too late. Now, retirement means different things for different people. It might mean for you a bit more downtime, a bit more social occasion. You might want to eat out more often or go to various different places, a bit more travel, see different countries, or you might want to take up a new hobby and maybe a bit of ballroom dancing or salsa dancing, or you might do a bit more gardening. Or maybe it's to spend time with children or grandchildren. But whatever it means for you, planning is the key, because you can then do all the things that you really want to do. you've worked hard all your life. You want to enjoy that retirement when it comes. So what do we actually have when it comes to retirement? Well, if you're employed, I'm sure that your employer offers you a workplace pension. And you will contribute a certain percentage of your income to that, and your employer will contribute a certain percentage as well. This is a great way to save for your retirement, but often people just sort of put it to the back of their minds and they think, oh, okay, well, I'm contributing to that. They don't really understand maybe how much that's going to give them when they do come to retirement. They don't understand how they can take that money. And they don't understand maybe if they could make additional contributions. They might have had different employers over the last 10 years, so they might have lots of different pots all over the place. Now, I've helped a lot of people find lost pension pots and consolidate them all together in one pot so that it's easy to administer and easy to understand, and they're not having lots of different costs coming off different pensions, because there are charges relating to every pension. The other pot you can have is a personal pension. So you can set up a personal pension yourself, which you can contribute to. Now, the absolute beauty of pensions and why I absolutely love them is because there is no other investment that you will get an immediate 20% growth when you pay money into it. So if you pay £80 into a personal pension, £100 goes into your pension, because you get 20% tax relief from the government. And that's if you're a basic rate taxpayer. If you're a higher rate taxpayer and you pay 40%, then you can actually claim on self-assessment another 20% tax relief on those contributions. So you're actually getting 40% tax relief on those contributions. So £60 for the £100. You also are entitled to state pension. Now, the state pension retirement age is increasing. It's going up to 68. So depending on your age, it might be 67, it might be 68, it might even go up higher. We don't know. And how do you qualify for state pension? You need at least 35 qualifying years on your national insurance record to be entitled to the full rate. Now, you can sign into the government gateway and you can instantly find out how many years of national insurance you've paid and what your state pension forecast is. You can also contact the Pension Futures Centre, because they are currently extending until, I think it's either June or July next year, that you can top up your national insurance contributions with any years that you've missed. So sometimes it's beneficial to do that, sometimes it isn't. But the Pensions Future Centre will be able to tell you, if you get all your information from the government gateway, they'll actually be able to tell you whether it's beneficial for you to do that or not. So I think that's really, really important for people to actually look at that and see what their record is. Sometimes we all know that people can make mistakes, so just check your record is correct. Now, the full state pension is currently £203.85 a week. That equates to about £10,600 a year. So a scary thought is that 2/3 of people retiring this year are at risk of not having enough pension savings to sustain their planned retirement income. Now, that's a really scary thought, and not what we want for people coming to the end of their lives. Well, obviously retirement, not the end of their lives, sorry. Hopefully they've got, potentially could have another 50 years. We've seen a lot of people live to 100 now. So will your pension be enough? Well, according to a recent survey, the average annual pension income that a single person receives is £12,800. However, the actual annual spending for a retired single person was found to be £23,300 for a moderate retirement and £37,300 for a comfortable retirement. Now, the difference between the moderate and the comfortable is that the moderate would be, say, maybe eating out once a month and one UK holiday a year, whereas the comfortable retirement would be eating out a few times a month and abroad, you know, an international holiday once a year. And for a couple, the average annual pension income is 19,900, yet the actual spending for a retired couple was said to be 34 for a moderate and 54,500 for a comfortable retirement. Now, how do you know how much money you need? That's a really good question. So if we have a look at this slide, a simple rule of thumb to determine what you might need as a pension pot when you retire is to have a look at your current expenditure. This is the process that I go through with my clients. We look at their current expenditure and then we pinpoint what on that expenditure list, which of those outgoings would we not have when it comes to retirement? So something like maybe your mortgage that you would hope would be paid off before your retirement, we can cross that out, so they're not going to have that one. And any other things like you may be paying for children at the moment, you've got maybe someone at university or they're still under 18. So things like that, we can reduce our expenditure from that perspective. And then we take that figure, that annual figure, and we'd multiply it by 25. So an income, if you wanted an income of £20,000, you'd actually need a pension pot of £500,000. Okay. Another thing to think about when it comes to saving for retirement is that we're all living longer, as I said before, going back to time. Now, it's predicted that by 2050, nearly 1 in 4 people will be aged over 65. And also by 2069, there are expected to be 19.8 million aged over 65. And very interestingly as well, in 2020, there were 15,120 people above the age of 100. My grandma was one of those people. So we need to plan. It's very difficult because with a financial plan, we don't have a crystal ball. So it is a lot of guesswork, because if we knew what age we were going to live to, it would be very easy to calculate what money we were going to need. But because we don't know that, then we have to make some educated guesses. Okay. So what can we do? Well, it sounds really painful and complex, but it really isn't. It's really simple and it's easy to create. The key is, as I said previously, it's never too late to start. Take action as soon as you can. It gives you such peace of mind and clarity. It will, you know, it's something else not to worry about. Okay, so what can your checklist be? As I said before, a great place to start is make a list of all your outgoings. Even if you don't want to plan for your retirement, a really great way to sort of get more in control of your finances is to write a list of all your expenditure. Just do an exercise for 3 months and write all your expenditure down, everything that you spend. Even just do it for 30 days, because it's really, really interesting to see actually where is your money going. And then what you can do with that information is actually create yourself a budget for each area where you spend money. So it may be groceries and social hobbies, children, that sort of thing. And you can clearly sort of have little pots that you know approximately how much you're spending each month. What about income? Have a look when it comes to retirement. What is your state pension going to be? What pensions do you already have? Do you have any lost pensions that you need to relocate? And then finally, make a plan. Even if it's not with myself, it's really great to speak to someone and try and get a bit more clarity. financial advice is often thought as a scary and expensive topic. It's really, really not. It was actually found in a recent study that you could actually be a lot better off taking financial advice. In the early 2000s, on average, people were found to be £47,000 better off by taking financial advice. And the reason being is financial planners have professional qualifications. They have up-to-date knowledge on legislation and your tax relief, so they can really help you make the most of all your tax allowances. And when it comes to taking your pension, again, there's different ways and there's different pots you can save money in to make it more tax efficient. No one wants to pay tax that they don't have to. And so we've come to the end of the presentation. I do hope it has been useful for you. If you wanted to get in touch with any questions that you have that you might not want to ask in a public environment, please do get in touch. You can connect with me on social media. I've got all my links at the bottom there, and I do think the slides are being sent out at the end. Is that right, Julie?
Yes, I can do that and include your contact details as well.
That's fantastic, thank you. So if you would like to get in touch, you can also book a discovery call with me. That's just literally a 20-minute telephone conversation. If you wanted to ask any questions, we can have a brief chat. I can answer any of your questions. I also offer one-to-one consultations, which are free of charge, no obligation. And then you can also follow me on social media, as I said, or sign up to my weekly emails. So I would really like to thank you for sitting through the presentation. I hope it's been helpful, and please feel free to ask any questions now in the chat that I can answer. So I think I've got one from someone. What are you? Okay, so we're talking about pension contributions, I think. So I will just answer that question, which is yes, if you're making personal pension contributions, not your workplace pension, personal pension contributions, you instantly get 20% tax relief going in. But if you are a 40%, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you need to complete a self-assessment to claim the additional 20% tax back. Does that answer your question? Brilliant, that's great, fantastic. Are there any more questions? Does anyone have any other questions?
I don't have any. Andrea, do you have any questions for Nicola today?
No, I think that's it from the webinar side.
Great, thank you so much, Nicola. I found it really interesting, so I'll be poring over your presentation recording again afterwards. So thank you so much for giving up your valuable time. As Nicola said, I will be sending out a copy of her slides and her contact details, which will be on the slides anyway. So I will email those through hopefully later today. Just wanted to remind people also that we will be recording this webinar and uploading it onto the RRSM YouTube channel after the event. So hopefully later today or tomorrow. So if there aren't any further questions, I'd just like to thank Andrea and the Yorkshire and Humber Branch Committee, and Nicola, thank you so much again for giving up your valuable time. What is a really interesting subject. And I hope to see everybody at the next RRSM webinar. Speak to you soon, everyone.
Thank you.